Germany has outlined a 20-year military transformation plan aimed at expanding its armed forces to 460,000 personnel and positioning itself as Europe's strongest conventional military power by 2039. This is not a routine policy update. It represents a structural reset in how the country defines security, force design, and its role within NATO. This video examines how these changes came together, what they are designed to achieve, and what could shift if the plan succeeds or fails. At the center of this shift is Germany's decision to formalize its first standalone military strategy, titled Responsibility for Europe. Presented by Defense Minister Boris Pistorius in Berlin on April 22, 2026, the strategy identifies Russia as the primary threat and outlines potential scenarios involving attacks on NATO territory. The document is fully classified but described publicly as a living framework intended to guide planning for the next 2 decades. It reflects a recognition within Berlin that the strategic environment has fundamentally changed and requires long-term structural adaptation. To understand why this shift is happening now, it is necessary to examine Germany's post-Cold War trajectory. For decades, the Bundeswehr operated under constraints shaped by historical experience, political caution, and reliance on collective defense structures within NATO. Military spending remained relatively low compared to other major economies, and operational readiness faced recurring criticism. The turning point came after Russia's actions in Ukraine, which forced a reassessment of European security assumptions and exposed gaps in deterrence and defense capabilities. The new strategy reflects that reassessment in concrete terms. It introduces what German planners describe as a one-theater approach, meaning that Europe, the Middle East, and the Indo-Pacific are no longer treated as separate operational zones. Instead, they are viewed as interconnected spaces where instability in one region can directly affect security in another. This marks a departure from earlier doctrines focused primarily on territorial defense within Europe. Alongside the strategy, Germany has introduced a capability profile that shifts away from traditional metrics such as fixed numbers of tanks or aircraft. Instead, planning is based on the effects the military must be able to deliver. These include long-range precision strike capabilities, advanced air defense systems capable of countering hypersonic threats, and expanded use of drones. Officials have acknowledged that in some of these areas, particularly deep strike, Germany is starting from a relatively low baseline. The personnel dimension is equally significant. The Bundeswehr currently has approximately 185,420 active duty soldiers. The new plan aims to increase that number to 260,000 by the mid-2030s. At the same time, the reserve force is set to expand from around 60,000 assigned reservists to at least 200,000. This would create a combined force of roughly 460,000 personnel. The timeline is structured in 3 phases: an initial buildup through 2029, a capability-focused expansion through 2035, and a technology-driven phase extending to 2039 and beyond. Recruitment trends provide some early indicators. According to Deputy Inspector General Nicole Schilling, recruitment is currently running about 10% above the previous year, with applications up 20%. However, the plan includes a contingency mechanism. New legislation enacted in January 2026 allows for the reintroduction of conscription if voluntary recruitment does not meet targets. This reflects the scale of the personnel challenge and the need for flexible policy tools. A major structural change involves the role of the reserve. Traditionally treated as a secondary force, The reserve is now positioned on equal footing with active forces. The new strategy envisions reservists taking primary responsibility for homeland defense, while supporting Germany's role as a logistical hub for NATO operations moving eastward in a crisis. This redefinition aligns with Germany's geographic position and its infrastructure capacity within Europe. The modernization effort extends beyond force structure to internal processes. The Entbürokratisierungs- und Modernisierungsagenda 2026 (EMA 26) includes 153 measures and 580 implementation steps aimed at reducing bureaucracy, digitizing workflows, and integrating artificial intelligence into administrative tasks. One notable feature is the introduction of automatic expiry dates for internal regulations, designed to prevent procedural stagnation and accelerate decision-making. Despite the scale of investment and planning, constraints remain. Defense Minister Pistorius has acknowledged that global demand for military equipment, particularly air defense systems, is already affecting production timelines. Increased demand from the Middle East has compressed manufacturing capacity, meaning procurement schedules depend on factors beyond Germany's direct control. This introduces uncertainty into the timeline, even as funding and political commitment remain in place. Two scenarios illustrate how this transformation could unfold. In the first scenario, Germany successfully meets its recruitment and procurement targets, building a force that achieves its stated goal of becoming Europe's leading conventional military power by 2039. In this case, NATO's European pillar would be significantly strengthened, reducing reliance on external support and enhancing collective deterrence. Germany would also assume a more central role in shaping European defense policy and operational planning. In the second scenario, implementation challenges slow progress. Recruitment shortfalls, supply chain constraints, or political shifts could delay key milestones. If that happens, capability gaps could persist, limiting Germany's ability to meet its strategic objectives. This would place additional pressure on other NATO members and could affect the overall balance of deterrence in Europe. The geopolitical implications are substantial. Germany's transformation is not occurring in isolation. It is part of a broader shift in European defense posture. As countries adjust to a more contested security environment, the distribution of military capability within NATO is evolving. Germany's increased role could influence how resources are allocated, how operations are coordinated, and how strategic priorities are set across the alliance. What makes this moment particularly significant is the alignment of political intent, legal frameworks, and operational planning. The strategy, capability profile, personnel plan, and modernization agenda are designed to function as an integrated system. Each component addresses a different aspect of military effectiveness, from doctrine and manpower to organization and administration. The outcome will depend on execution over time. Observers should track recruitment data, procurement contracts, and the pace of organizational reform. These indicators will provide a clearer picture of whether the plan is translating into tangible capability. This is a long-term transformation rather than an immediate shift. It reflects a recalibration of how Germany perceives risk, responsibility, and its position within Europe. Whether this recalibration leads to greater stability or introduces new dynamics will depend on how consistently the plan is implemented and how other actors respond.